I'm here with Safa Ghnaim from Tactical Tech, and we are going to be talking about something that I think is very relevant these days, which is data detox. How to manage your data online, right? How to manage what information you put out there and what information you control. Safa, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, about the work you do at Tactical Tech?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having this conversation with me today. It's really great whenever I come across someone who's interested in the work that we do. So I am the project lead of the Data Detox Kit at Tactical Tech. So I guess it's quite helpful for context to know about Tactical Tech. And, you know, our organization has been around since, I think, 2003, so quite some time, really looking at a number of topics surrounding data, privacy, digital security, any way that the internet and technologies affect our lives. And so we've had a number of projects over the years, both that are, you know, exhibitions, for example, or guides that you read online. So it's a number of different experiences too. And the Data Detox Kit in particular is one of those projects. So what we focus on in the Data Detox Kit are a series of guides that anyone can follow, which give people tips on how to change their settings on their phone, settings on Facebook, which gives people a list of alternative apps which are more privacy conscious. Let's say you don't want to use Google anymore and you don't have an idea of where to go. We give you some great ideas. But we also look at other topics too, like digital well-being, you know, your relationship with your phone and the constant buzzing and the lights and how that affects us and things that we could do if it affects you, strategies you could take. Recently, we've been focusing a lot on combating misinformation. So, you know, this can be as simple as just being a little bit more careful about what we share and who we're sharing with. So really just a number of topics that we're looking at.
Great. And why is this important? Or where does the demand come from? Is it from civil society organizations, from activists, researchers? Why should they care about this?
Yeah, well, I mean, really, I can tell you a reason that any individual should care about it. And really, you know, the fact that we are not only using the internet to share pictures of our cats or our dogs, that, you know, we're using the internet to email our doctor, refill prescriptions, register to vote. You know, there are just so many things that the internet is. It's not like we have an online and an offline life anymore. Really, our whole life is interconnected so that even when we're not, you know, scrolling and looking at our smartphone, we are still online. Our information, our, you know, maybe it's not us, for example, that's putting it out there. Maybe it's the city, for example, when we register for a flat or a car or sign up for insurance, or, you know, there are just a number of things that our whole life is this like morphing of online and offline. It's all together now. So I think there's really a reason for any individual to care. And I think specifically for think tanks, you know, when we think about things like digital privacy, let's say, or digital security, it's not its own avenue. In fact, it's a sort of like a large park that's touching everything. There's a variety of different plants and trees and pathways and routes. And it's really the same thing where these are holistic, like intersectional topics. And so I think really they're quite timely for any kind of topic that we're talking about, whether it be sustainability or elections. It could go all over the place.
And I can imagine that many of the think tanks or organizations working in spaces where the civic space is closing, you know, would be worried about the privacy and the safety of their networks and their connections. So at least taking care about how you manage your data would be useful, not just for you personally, but also professionally.
Absolutely, I fully agree. You know, a lot of the safety precautions and privacy precautions that I take in my everyday work is so that I can protect those who I'm emailing with, those who I'm contacting, to make sure that I am respectful of their right to privacy as well, and that I recognize that I don't know their situations. So I'd rather be more careful than not careful enough.
Right. So we'll be sharing the link when we post this video, but you were going to tell me a little bit about what this involves. You know, is this going to be one of those very long processes where I have to give up my entire life, or my entire online life, or is this going to be something that, you know, most people can do, or, you know, at least do part of it?
Yeah, I love exactly how you said that. I mean, really, we are writing tips for people who are online. So I'm not going to tell you to live under a rock. I'm not going to tell you to throw your phone in the ocean. No, I'm giving you strategies that you can use while you're using your phone. So, you know, let's start really basic. You know, all of these tips are written in very fundamental ways, simple ways. Simplicity is key. So you could do anything over a cup of coffee. Really, you don't need that much time to get started. But let's just start simple. Let's say the name of your phone. I think most people don't realize it, but when they register for a phone and they purchase a phone from the shop, the shopkeeper, when they sell the phone and the phone number, I should say, they register a name for that phone. And so oftentimes, if you go to your settings and about phone, it's typically in that somewhere in that about phone area where you can see like what the name of the device is, which Android version or iOS version you use. You can see the name of your phone. For me, I have a like pay-as-you-go phone, but the name on my phone is still my real name, like Safa Ghnaim was on my phone. And I was feeling a little bit concerned about that because I thought, well, you know, just knowing how a phone works, a phone is constantly seeking connection, right? So it's seeking connection if I'm connecting to Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. Let's say I'm at the airport and I'm connecting to the Wi-Fi at the airport. That means that my name is visible to whoever that Wi-Fi owner is. For example, there are a ton of different other scenarios where I might be connecting to something like Bluetooth and my name shows up. So the first step is very simple of the data detox, which is change your device name. It doesn't need to be a real name. It could honestly be anything. I change it sometimes every few months. Whenever I have a workshop, I'll change it to something different. Right now it's human.
I'm gonna try doing this as you told.
Great. Yeah, the steps are a little bit different on iOS and Android. I have Android, so I had to change it, both the phone name and the Bluetooth name. They were in two different spots for me. Yeah. But I think on iPhone, it's only one spot.
Okay, so I'm going to change it now. Okay, step one.
Yeah, step one, check. So, you know, as I mentioned then, you know, we talk about how the phone connects. And I think this is also very helpful to understand how location tracking works. And this is something that has been especially timely these days for my friends in the United States who have been protesting, my friends in Belarus who are protesting, really anywhere that there is a protest happening. This is also very important to understand just the very, very basic mechanic of how a phone works. Because if you are at all concerned about anyone tracking your location, anyone at all, it helps to know. So, you know, first of all, we know that on your phone at the very top, you have location information. It's sort of the GPS. So the GPS, it works by, you know, supplying you with the weather. When you connect to your Maps app, you can check the maps. But there are other areas where the location is being collected on your phone or indicated on your phone too. So, you know, one other way is that when you download any app, let's say you download a photo filter app for Instagram. Okay. Photo filter, you think it's only going to be touching my device files so that it can check, you know, the pictures that I already have, and it connects to my camera on my phone, so it can connect to that too. But actually, there is a possibility that this app is also collecting your location data. It may also be collecting your contacts. And this is something you can turn off. I don't want to scare anyone because you can turn it off. You can go in and check it. So if you go in your, for me, it's my settings and apps. I have to check them individually. And each app, it shows me what permissions it has turned on and off. And then I can decide if I want to change them. iPhone is the same. I think with iPhone, it groups them together into, I want to see all the apps that collect location and so on. So it's a little bit, I think, of it easier to go through if you're worried about one thing. And then finally, the last way that your phone is connecting is, you know, when you check the signal strength on your phone, you want to see, am I 3G or 4G? Can I make a phone call? This is indicating that your phone is constantly connecting to nearby cell phone towers. So let's say you turn off Wi-Fi, you turn off GPS location data. It's still easy for certain parties, for example, law enforcement, to know where you are because you're connecting to local cell phone towers.
Yeah.
So it's just important to understand how that mechanism works at a basic level.
I guess that last one is, you know, if you want to be connected, if you're going to make a phone call, you can't turn that off, right? It's
Exactly.
going to be trying to connect. Your colleague Varun at our OTT conference a month ago, more or less, talked about geofencing. So, you know, identifying a space, a building even, and targeting information to people in that space.
Right.
So, I mean, that was quite an eye-opener. I had not realized that was happening. And I was thinking, you know, if you're worried about being tracked individually or being worried about being hacked individually, that's one thing. But in this case, I mean, it's just about being worried about you being targeted for information or disinformation.
Exactly.
So it makes sense to, at least in certain cases, certain occasions, if you are politically active, you know, to check those settings to make sure you're not being targeted because of how you think or because of your work, your profession, or your activism in private life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I think as well, what's important to note is that, you know, although we can change these settings, something like location, which I know my colleague Varun has also written about in the past before too, that these patterns that are made with past location data tracking, it makes it fairly easy for certain groups, like again, law enforcement or advertisers or political campaigns to have a pattern of us. So let's say we turn off location tracking for 1 hour and turn it back on again. It's not going to make a big difference because, you know, it might still be very clear that we live in this location, we go to work at this location. And so turning it off for 1 or 2 hours won't make a big difference. Or at least I should say it's not guaranteed. So just to make sure that anyone who is really concerned about it takes maybe further steps, further precautions to make sure that they're okay.
Now, these are things that you can do individually, but what about at the organizational level? So if the think tank is concerned about the think tank being the target of surveillance or the think tank being the target of sort of undue influence by others, what can it do? I mean, can it kind of encourage all of its staff to you know, follow your data detox? Sure. But is this enough, or does it have to think about an organizational data detox? I mean, is there such a thing?
Absolutely. I really like how you've called it an organizational data detox, and I think that that's quite helpful. If you are in a position in an organization to implement that or to advocate for that, you know, there are a number of things. Let's just talk about the apps that are used. You know, some organizations, of course, they use collaborative documents like Google Docs, cloud folders like Google Drive, video conferencing like Zoom. And these can be really great tools. They're very easy. Lots of people are connected to them, but they also pose many questions and dilemmas. And there are a number of tools which are privacy conscious. For example, at Tactical Tech, we use, rather than Zoom, we use B3. It's called Big Blue Button. It's great. I think it works really well for facilitating. There are always going to be some trade-offs though. So for example, with B3, I find that if I'm in a meeting with more than 20 people, it gets a little bit choppy with the internet. But if you are meeting in small groups, you know, you could say, we're only using Zoom for the big conferences with like, you know, more than 20 people. But if it's one-on-one, let's use B3 or let's use Jitsi Meet. This is another great privacy conscious video conferencing tool. The same can be said about the Drive. The same can be said about the shared collaborative documents. There are other options. And I understand, of course, that not all organizations have the chance to change everything. Maybe you can't change it all at once, but maybe you can change one thing. And that may already make a start, make a difference.
Great. And what about the impact? I mean, have you noted any impact on people or organizations using your data detox tips or advice?
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten a lot of feedback. So the data detox has been around since late 2017. And we have had quite a lot of feedback over the years from individuals and organizations, also those who implement it. And it's been very overwhelmingly positive. I mean, of course, we get feedback sometimes, which is like, okay, this is out of date, please fix it. This is not working, please fix it. And it's super helpful. I really appreciate that because it makes sure that the tool is the most relevant and up to date. And overwhelmingly, the feedback has been positive, so much so that actually the data detox information on the website, the guides, are available in 20 languages and counting. We're still, you know, more and more people are emailing us about giving us translations. So it's really exciting. I also have noticed that it's become quite popular with schools, with librarians in particular. They really like to share the data detox with their patrons. And there are a number of ways to do it. You know, we have the website, but we also have PDFs for free that anyone can save from the website. They can print out, they can put up in the staff meeting room, they can email around to their colleagues. So there are lots of different ways to access this material too. Yeah.
Great. Well, I think it's very useful. And I can imagine, as I said, that think tanks in context where the civic space is closing would want to consider it, and certainly their staff, especially if they are politically active, right, politically visible, this will be very helpful for them.
Yeah, I would like to note on that word that, you know, a lot of the articles that I am writing and that my colleagues are writing, we write them in ways which are very non-technical. And so the language is also non-controversial. And, you know, we do this on purpose for a number of reasons, of course, partly so that, you know, anyone can engage with it. You don't need to be like a computer scientist to follow a data detox. Anyone can follow it. But also we also don't want it to raise any red flags. You know, I think that talking about digital security and activism in really precise terms can sometimes cause some you know, people to feel nervous about accessing websites from their country, from where they are. And so what's nice about the data detox, it's written in such a humorous, lighthearted kind of, it sounds fluffy, but actually the tips are really solid and really important. Yeah. So anyone
nobody's going to say, oh, why are you checking that website? Because it's fun, it's nice. It's,
exactly. I was just curious, it's harmless, it's fine. Yeah, exactly. And it's true. Yeah, that's why we wrote it like that.
Great. Well, that's very useful. Well, thank you very much. This was very, very useful. We will definitely follow up soon, see if we can organize a data detox online.
That would be wonderful.
But we'll be sharing the website and the link when we publish this video. And this was great. Thank you very much for joining us in this OTT talk. we'll be
Thank you.
doing these talks, regularly, trying to feature some new ideas, some new work. And I think this is very relevant, not just to the subject of technology and think tanks, but also to think tanks in the context of a crisis where we're all online all the time. Many organizations are far more exposed online than they've ever been, and they were probably not prepared to be exposed online in this way. And so having this tool will certainly be helpful to them in the near future.
I hope so. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you very much.